Namaskar. I welcome you all to the fourth video in our 2022 Prelims Analysis series. Until now, we have analyzed the first 30 questions of Prelims 2022. And in this video, we're going to analyze questions starting from number 31 to question number 40. Before we begin, as usual, let us reiterate the key principles of prelims analysis. First, which is sticking to basic sources and revising them over and over again. What are those basic sources? Why they need to be revised? These things have been spoken about, they have been discussed in the first video of the series. Second is employing common sense, knowing that either the question has directly come from a standard source, and if it has not, the question can be solved with logical reasoning, with common sense. With that belief, you would train your mind to get over that initial paranoia or anxiety of of not being able to solve the question. And so that'll give you a fair bit of confidence, knowing that these heuristics, these commonsensical principles, when applied in conjunction with your basic source, they pay rich dividends. So let's begin with question number 31. Question number 31 has given us four applications of sorts, and the question says, which of the above are built on top of the open source digital platforms? So to be honest, in the examination hall, I couldn't recall very actively as to which of these four were built on open source digital platforms. But since this question has not been given in any of the standard sources, this for me was another question from logical reasoning. And so, as I keep saying in this examination, overview is much more important, is much more fruitful, is much more rewarding than in-depth knowledge. So I lacked in-depth knowledge again in this question, but an overview of government's functioning tells me that government focuses on increasing digitization. You call it digitization, and that is why most, if not all, of government's applications, of government's e-governance measures are built on open source. So government prefers open source so as to increase inclusivity, so as to improve digitalization, and that is why commonsensically I was leaning towards D. And with this overview, I couldn't think of a reason to eliminate any of these four. And using these two heuristics in conjunction, I fairly confidently mark D. Also because, as I keep reiterating, I have a high risk appetite. I have analyzed papers starting from 2011 to 2021 exhaustively prior to going in the examination hall, and that is why, with a fair bit of confidence, I knew that this overview that government prefers open source will work, and I backed that hunch. I marked D, and again that turned out to be the right answer. So you're seeing, the moment you see the question, you should be able to bucket it in one of the three categories. So either the question has directly come from a basic source, either the question has come from a basic source but requires a little bit of application of common sense, or it is directly a logical reasoning question. So the moment you see a question like this, you should you should be able to bucket it under category 3 and say that whatever information given to me here in this statement is enough to solve the question. So that confidence is very important. That approach has paid me rich dividends in the past, and we can see it even in questions to come. So let's see question number 32. Question number 32, let's settle the directive first. Directive is correct. It says, with reference to Web 3.0, consider the following statements. One is, Web 3.0 technology enables people to control their own data. 2 says, in Web 3.0 world, there can be blockchain based social networks. Number 3 says, Web 3.0 is operated by users collectively rather than a corporation. So again, since this question has not come from a standard source, this is another question which is a logical reasoning based question for me. I observe two, three factors when I go through the first three statements. The first thing that I observe is that all of them are positive statements. So they're not talking about the limitations of the application. They're talking about the possible employment, possible applications that enables people to control their own data. Second, there can be a blockchain based social network. It is operated by users collectivity. That was the first insight. Second insight was all three statements are coherent. So if one of these is correct, the other naturally flows from it. So let's say if I assume that one is correct, let's say if Web 3.0 technology actually enables people to control their own data, then 3 goes hand in hand. So 1 and 3 go hand in hand. Then again, we know that blockchain is all about decentralization. It is all about giving people the power to collect the data rather than a centralizing authority. And that tells you that all three statements are coherent with each other. These are basic logical reasoning based principles. Again, I would reiterate, this question in my eyes has not come directly from a source. If it has not come from a standard source, it could be solved with logical reasoning. And the logical reasoning in this paper is derived from the analysis of previous questions, because principles could be different for a different exam. And analysis would tell you that these three are positive statements, though all three statements are coherent. Again, I fairly confidently marked D, which turned out to be the right answer. So I think you're now able to appreciate the pattern, and I'm certain as and how we move forward, this pattern is only going to become more and more vivid and clear to you too. So coming to question number 33. Question number 33 says, with reference to SaaS, software as a service, consider the following statements. The directive is correct. Statement 1 says, these buyers can customize the user interface and can change data fields. Of course, why not? I mean, I have no reason to negate. Until I'll have a strong reason to negate, until then I'll assume the statement to be correct. So users can access their data through their mobile devices. Of course, why not? And 3 says, this decisions are forms of SaaS. So logically also, if it makes sense. So software as a service, and these email platforms are softwares which provide the users a certain service, which is the service of an email. So again, with logical reasoning, with common sense, since this question has not directly come from a standard source, common sense tells me that these three are positive statements. These three I don't have a strong reason to negate. No strong reason to negate. And finally, all three, they work in tandem. I mean, if you're giving a user a service, the user should have the ability to customize the interface or change the fields, or they can access with mobile devices the data. And these examples sounded legit. So again, I marked D, and which again turned out to be the right answer. So it cannot be a coincidence that consistently I'm getting lucky. Of course, there's a fair bit of luck involved at the end of the day, but you cannot exclusively call it luck if you're getting a lot of questions correct, one after the other. So let's see question number 34 and see if our dictums get us to the right answer or not. This was a beautiful question. I really enjoyed solving this question in the examination hall. So question says, which one of the following statements best reflects the idea behind the fractional orbital bombardment system, often talked about in media? Personally, I haven't heard of this idea before. So I see 3 keywords. First is fractional, second is orbital, and third is bombardment system. So as I've spoken about in the past as well, in questions like these, I tend to focus on word association. And I'll see if I can, if any of these 4 options has words or has statements or has an essence which relates well to all the keywords that are there in the theory or in the system that is being talked about. System is fractional orbital bombardment system. 3 keywords that I'm looking for in the right answer: fractional one, orbital second, bombardment system. So let's see. Statement option number A says a hypersonic missile is launched into space to counter the asteroid approaching the Earth and explode. So explosion missile relates to bombardment system. It has elements of number 3 and launched into space to counter the asteroid approaching the Earth explode. So it doesn't speak about the orbit at all. So okay, I'll keep it on hold. I'll compare it with the other options, but it only has a relation with the third keyword, which is the bombardment system. Let's see what option number B says. Option number B says a spacecraft lands on another planet after making several orbital motions. This only talks about the first keyword, so about the second keyword, that is the orbital. I don't see fractional or anything related to bombardment. Let's hold. Let's still go and read the next statement. So option number C says a missile is put into a stable orbit around the Earth and deorbits over a target on the Earth. So missile relates to the bombardment system, orbit relates to orbital, and deorbiting relates to the fractional aspect of it. So fractional means completely it is not staying the course, and it first is put into a stable orbit and then it deorbits over the target. So logically speaking, until now 3 at least has all the 3 elements. Still, I won't be really confident. I would first also read option number D. So option number D says a spacecraft moves along a comet with the same speed and places a probe on its surface. I mean, in this, all 3 elements are missing. I don't see orbit being mentioned. I don't see anything related to fractional or with the bombardment system. So I'm going to back my hunch. I'm going to back the fact that since this question has not directly come from a standard source, logical reasoning can be fairly employed in this question. 3 keywords that I could identify: fractional, orbital, and bombardment system. I see statement number C, option number C, in which I could find elements relating to all these 3 keywords, and I marked C. Again, turned out to be the correct answer. So first, as I keep saying, to make the magic work, you have to believe in the magic. You have to believe that this is not magic, this actually works like a charm. And as and how you analyze these questions more and more, you would realize that this paper is entirely about basic sources and logical reasoning. What cannot be solved with basic sources has to be solved solely and exclusively with logical reasoning. Next year, let's say coaching is going to come out with a 100-page compilation on obscure trivial keywords like these. I don't think it is neither possible nor desirable to go down that route and try and cram similar keywords. I hope this is going to help you in the further analysis. I hope you are going to analyze the questions by yourselves too, because every time you do it yourself, it opens your perspective to different ways in approaching such questions. So let's come to the next question. Question number 35. This was a fairly simple question. People have heard of it, but even if you have not heard of it, you can again make that word association in this question too. It says qubit, and quantum QU. Here, so the keyword doesn't say CS or CL. It is VLC tech. Again, I can't see VLC written anywhere. Again, wireless communication tech. I don't see anything like YCO or WC. It says qubit intuitively relates to quantum computing, even if you have not explicitly read the topic. So again, you can with fair confidence using word association could mark B, which will turn out to be the right answer. Next question, question number 36. So it says, consider the following statements. Directive is correct. So biofilms can, so now I think you'd be able to see this pattern over and over again. It says can form on medical implants within human tissues. Okay, it is a positive statement, number 1. And again, it is so it is not extreme in the sense that it says that it will definitely form on medical implants. It is vague, and it says can. So of course it can. Why not? I don't have a strong reason to negate it with my basic knowledge. Statement number 2 says biofilms can form on food and food processing surfaces. Again, why not? As a layman, I can't find a legitimate reason why I would negate this statement. And 3 says can exhibit antibiotic resistance. Again, why not? And maybe initially when I was made aware of these uh, of these logical reasoning tools, I was really skeptical that I haven't read of biofilms. How can I be certain that biofilms can exhibit antibiotic resistance? But with thorough analysis of the previous questions, I realized that UPSC doesn't, 9 out of 10 times they don't make statements on their own. And that is the reason why positive statements are correct. And usually when you have a negative qualifier, so let's say it says biofilms cannot exhibit antibiotic resistance, statements like these are negated by whosoever is setting the question. uh, and that is why you should become really aware, or you should at least pay special attention to negative statements. So in this question, statement number 1, 2, 3, all three are positive statements. They speak about a possibility, not about a certainty. Possibilities are more certain than certainties. And finally, all three, I mean, I don't have a strong reason to negate it as a layman. This question has not come from any standard source. Since it has not come from a standard source, in all possibility it can be solved using logical reasoning. And logical reasoning tells me positive statement, possibilities. I have no reason to negate any of these three, no strong reason to negate any of these three statements. I marked D, moved on, turned out to be the right answer. Next question. So first of all, so it says which of the following statements in respect of probiotics, three statements about probiotics, directive is correct. Now this question is slightly different because this has no option which has all of the above, which says all of the above. So at least one of these three statements has to be wrong. So that is why in UPSC or in prelims, in most of the prelims, it is not about the question, it is about the way options are set. The same question could be made difficult or could be made easy, entirely based on how the examiner decides to set the options. So in this question, one thing is certain: 1, 2, 3 is not a possible combination. Now you'll have to figure out the odd one out. That is the first hint. So figure the odd one out. Let's read. Statement 1 says probiotics are made of both bacteria and yeast. I don't know, I'm skeptical. As soon as I see both, I'm skeptical. Maybe one of these could be related to probiotics, other has just been added to confuse me. I'll hold on, I won't make a conclusive judgment yet. Statement 2 says the organisms in probiotics are found in the foods we ingest, but they do not naturally occur in your gut. So as we have spoken in the past, UPSC usually uses this form, this but not this. And that should really catch your attention, because more often than not, a statement of this kind is incorrect. How have I gotten this insight? By thoroughly analyzing previous questions. So I'm skeptical more of statement number 2 than I am of option number 1. So let's say if I eliminate option number 2, I arrive at option number A, option number C. So now I don't have to idly think about 1 at all, because one is correct any which way. Let's look at statement number 3. Statement number 3 says probiotics help in the digestion of milk sugar. Again, this is a positive statement, and it is not extreme either. It says it helps. It doesn't say that probiotics are solely responsible. They are solely responsible for digestion of milk sugars. So similar heuristic that we applied in the last question, positive statement, and it is not extreme in its connotation. So C makes more sense. Initially, I was also skeptical of statement number 1, because both statements of these kinds are also manipulated sometimes by UPSC, but there's no option which says 3 only, and 2 is more likely to be incorrect than 1, because this form is much easily manipulated by UPSC, if you observe previous questions, than this form. And that is how I arrived at C. That is what I marked in the examination hall. Again, turned out to be correct. So seeing we have gotten 8 out of 8 correct until now. Let's say even if you make a couple of mistakes, until now, and let's say you get 6 correct, 2 incorrect, or let's say even 5 correct, 3 incorrect, your net correct is still 4 out of 8. And cutoff, again, in recent times hasn't gone above 50%. So at this point in time, the more questions you attempt using your basic knowledge and common sense, the more chance you would have of clearing the prelims. I hope the battery doesn't die. We have 2 more questions to go. Let's hope it sustains. So question number 39 says, in context of vaccines manufactured, which of the following are correct? So statement 1 says, Serum Institute produced COVID-19 vaccine named Covishield using mRNA. Clearly, everyone mostly has been aware of this fact that Covishield is not an mRNA based, is not made using mRNA platform. The moment you eliminate one, you arrive at the right answer. So now you'd see, as we've also seen in that RBI wala question in the first three questions, I think you eliminate the simplest, the most well-known option. The most well-known fact is usually given as incorrect. The moment you eliminate it, you arrive at the right answer. So UPSC doesn't want you to know about Sputnik 5 or Covaxin idly. If you know it, well and good. But even if you're not aware of statement number 2 or 3, you can easily get to the right answer if this simplest of the trivia is known by you, right? So basic knowledge and common sense, I can't stress enough on this. And you'd know that maybe, again, I sound like a broken record, but I am certain that when you're sitting in the examination hall, this broken record will at least help you some way or the other in eliminating useless options. So coming to the final question of the day, question number 40. Question number 40 says, if a major solar flare reaches the Earth, which of the following are the possible effects on the Earth? It says correct answer. So let's see. It says GPS, so solar flare. Basic analysis, basic understanding about solar flare tells us that essentially they are EM radiations. So systems could fail GPS, and of course the interference can lead to their failure. So 1 commonsensically sounds correct. So if 1 is correct, B cannot be correct. Still, I'll hold on and I'll read other options. Tsunamis could occur at equatorial regions. I'm not certain of the logical correlation, so I'm going to hold on to this. I'm neither going to accept or negate this statement abhi tak. Statement 3 says power grids could be damaged. Of course, EM radiation can damage power grids. So 3 is also correct. So if 3 is correct, A cannot be correct. So now we are left with either C or D. So 1, 3, 4, 6 and 7 is common. And D has 2 additional options, 2 and 5. So ideally 7 is correct. Shortwave radio communication could be interrupted, makes sense. And 6 is correct. Orbits could be disturbed. Plus intense auroras could occur. Again, this is a known fact. Usually it is well known. So the entire question hangs on statement number 2 and statement number 5. Now, there are 2 ways to look at it. The first is to know that, examiner is trying to confuse you. Examiner is trying to confuse you between the keyword flare, and the examiner is trying to relate flare with fire. So that flare is not actual fire coming onto the surface of the Earth, but it is an EM radiation. And if you can back that logical reasoning in the examination hall, and also secondly, even if that logical reasoning, you cannot arrive at that logical reasoning in the examination hall, you should be fairly confident that tsunamis usually, occur because of an underlying movement in plates. And solar flares do not have a one-to-one correlation with tsunamis at all. We haven't read about solar flares being a causal factor of tsunamis when we have read tsunamis in geography. So you have to be confident also in the basic sources you read. Sometimes you can get confused that maybe tsunamis could be related with solar storms, or maybe I have not read it. It doesn't work like that. If you've read a basic source, if you read the basics about tsunamis and you have not read that tsunamis are strongly influenced by solar storms, be rest assured that it is not. And so by backing it, I would prefer C over D, knowing that D is an outlandish options because 2 doesn't make sense and 5 also doesn't make sense. And again, that turned out to be the right answer. So again, we have seen in the last 10 questions that basic sources, common sense will do wonders for your performance in prelims. I think on that note, I'll just take your leave. I am certain that this helped you. In case it did, feel free to like. And I think that is it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.